The Little Village Environmental Justice Organization, otherwise known as Lvejo, is a non-profit organization who has been working on environmental issues on the southwest side of Chicago for the past 20 years.
Lvejo has dealt with issues of air pollution, public transportation, and lack of green space. But like a lot of other communities on the south and southwest side of Chicago, we've also dealt with violence and crime in our neighborhood.
Little Village has the second highest concentration of Mexican Americans in the United States behind East Los Angeles. It's home to 26th Street, which generates the second most amount of tax revenue for the city of Chicago behind Michigan Avenue. Little Village is also home to Cook County Department of Corrections, the nation's largest single-site jail, which also doubles as the largest mental health institution in the state of Illinois. It is very common to find environmental injustices in low-income communities of color, and it's not a coincidence that Cook County Jail is a low-income community of color in itself.
Violent weekend in Chicago.
Chicago had a bloody weekend again.
One that saw 9 people shot to death and at least 60 others wounded. 2 of the dead were shot by police. Officers shot a total of 5 people.
A count of casualties that could have been from Afghanistan or Iraq, but it was here in Chicago, a place some have dubbed Chirac.
I'm outraged by the degree to which we as a country have not focused on what happened over the weekend in Chicago. At least 82 people were shot. 82. 14 of them died. It's really troubling that the country is numb and so indifferent.
The truth is, there haven't been many successful policies and programs implemented over the years in regards to reducing crime. They've been ineffective because they don't take into account the environmental issues in these communities. Lvejo has seen plenty of efforts around the city fighting the criminalization and disproportionate arrests which occur in colored communities.
As an organization, when we take on an issue, we try to understand the root cause of the problem. We're hearing a lot about violence in the city, but nobody talks about the environmental injustices that these communities share.
Lvejo's journey was never easy. For over a decade, they faced false solutions proposed by government agencies and corporations telling the residents of Little Village what they needed in their neighborhood. In 2001, a report by Harvard School of Public Health stated that the Crawford coal plant in the Little Village neighborhood caused approximately 40 premature deaths a year. Little Village has experienced an average of less than 17 homicides a year. As of August of 2012, Lvejo was successful in the shutdown of the coal power plant, the real killer in Little Village. The very same year, in September of 2012, Lvejo was successful in the reinstatement of the 31st Street bus, a route which was absent for 14 years. One of the most successful ways to deter youth from joining a life of crime is by exposing them to a world outside of what they know, which is what equitable public transportation can provide, along with a safe passage for residents from one side of the neighborhood to the other, especially for the students of Little Village Lawndale High School. Lvejo also fought for over 10 years to have a park on the east side of the neighborhood. Not only is Little Village the youngest neighborhood in the city of Chicago, it also has the largest deficit of green space per capita, an unfortunate combination for a community already experiencing violence. What was the city's solution to this issue? To invest a little more money into the already existing park in Little Village.
We must address the root problem of violence in Little Village. It starts by looking at the criminalization of Black and brown people and the environmental degradation of their community.
Just like Lvejo was proposed false solutions for the community's issues, the government has proposed false solutions for the issue of violence and crime. The truth is, the current justice system has implemented and backed a number of racially biased policies and efforts to reduce crime. Such things like mandatory minimums, hiring more cops, and even deploying military troops are some of the many options which have been considered.
We cannot continue to use these false solutions in battling high crime areas. Our communities need to look at not just the high crimes, the poverty, the violence, but we also need to be looking at the environmental injustices that are contributing to these factors. The reality is, if we want to deal with these issues in our communities, we need to be investing in our communities. That is really going to be one of the strongest ways for us to deal with this problem.
Residents require the essentials they deserve, which includes access to clean air, water, and land. Equitable green space, public transportation, and healthy foods shouldn't be luxuries. There should be greater investments in our environment because it shapes who we are. Environmental injustices in any community only increase the chance of falling into a life of crime and violence. Having an environment where crime is prevalent increases our chances of committing delinquent acts.